Hey, welcome everyone to this introduction overview of our program on life purpose, your life purpose, very important stuff, which is part of the Holistic Spiritual Coaching and Healing Certification Program, an upcoming course here on life purpose. I'm Philip Mountrose with my wonderful wife and partner, Jane.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to give you a sense of what we teach week to week. And a live demonstrations. So make sure you hang around to the end. And we know that it can be challenging at times to figure out how to proceed on your spiritual path, even confusing, perhaps overwhelming. We know we've been there. We started this journey, this more conscious awakening journey, about 3 decades ago. More specifically, there was no Amazon, no social media, no online training, and maybe some of you were searching back then too. And so to find a reliable roadmap that really fit what we were doing in the new age that was burgeoning, it took a lot of trial and error. We wanted to find something which we finally developed that included a soul development along with healing and personal and professional growth. And there were times we felt lost in the woods, yes, but luckily we did keep going, which we encourage you to do. That's a little secret to keep going, because it can turn out to be more wonderful than you even imagine if you keep with it with some of the ups and downs you're going to go through. And there are some leaps of faith involved. That's part of the journey to keep going in that. And having a few, as I said, maybe a few things where things don't work out, but you keep going and it does work out wonderfully well. And the life purpose introduction, what we're going to be sharing, what we teach is a wonderful array, synergistic of powerful spiritual holistic skills and knowledge that we've tested. Some of them we've developed on our own. We know they work over the years, and in the course you get to actually practice these skills with a partner, wonderful partners in a small group. And then you're going to get this reliable roadmap that we've developed for spiritual growth and healing. And you'll be an empowered, more conscious creator with your life purpose clear and support. And that's a big thing. Most holistic people are lacking the support. You need the support along with the knowledge and tools to succeed. And that's what you have available here. So Jane, do you want to talk a little bit more about, and we'll talk a little more about our journey and life purpose here?
Yeah. And this morning I was going through the things that we're going to share today and looking at this part here about a life with purpose and a life without purpose. It really brought me back to where you were saying where we started, the things that we wanted. I think also I was experiencing a lot of what I didn't want. I was a successful architect, but I wasn't a happy person by any means, and not a fulfilled person in any sense of the word. And so I was a perfect actually example of this, of the description that Philip just showed a moment ago. I was de-energized. In fact, I felt, without understanding at all what it meant, I felt like my soul was dying. Like I was just losing, my life force was draining from me. And I knew that something was definitely missing. Something major had to change for me to be able to feel like I wanted to go on living. It wasn't that I was suicidal or anything, but I just was in a really confused place, I guess, about life. We did all the things that people do we had the cars, the house, the jobs, the vacations, we had all those things, but life wasn't working at all for me. And I think it wasn't for Philip either.
Right.
So, and another one, I think another of the items that Philip had on that list was lacking guidance and wisdom. In fact, at that time, which was in the late 1980s, we were out looking for how could we find a way to reliably access our own guidance and wisdom, because we actually met in an organization where the leader had the guidance and wisdom and everyone else was expected to just go along with that. And that was very confusing to me. After a while, I finally wondered, and it took some time to get to the point, but I wondered, well, if he has all that guidance and wisdom, why can't we have it? So we left the organization and went out looking for it. And in the process, actually, that's where we started to find our purpose and a sense of direction. And it is just as I think the biggest clue that you're on track with your purpose, I think, is the first one on that list, which is you feel energized. And the second one is related. You also feel fully alive. It's like, I just can't wait to get up every day because life is so exciting and amazing to me. And the direction that my life is going in is completely fulfilling and wonderful to me. And that change actually started to happen when we discovered how to access our own guidance and wisdom, which was the third item on that list. And it's really connecting with the truth in your heart. When I started doing that every day, I think my life changed. Within a week, I started feeling more energized and excited. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning, where before I hardly wanted to get up in the morning. And it is really when we connect with that sense of guidance in our hearts that we understand what our direction is. And it's heart and soul. Our heart is the place where the soul connects most firmly with the body. And that is where we can explore really and understand more about what our purpose is. So it's very exciting, even now, for me to think back on that and how just amazingly our lives turned around and started going in a different direction, as Philip suggested, going in a place where it's been actually more than we could ever possibly have imagined over all of these years, and still is continuing. The journey continues.
It really does. And for me, just real briefly, I had sort of another burnout story, not quite as intense as Jane's. I was a school teacher, educator for many years, and it just lost its luster. Right. I enjoyed helping children, but I knew it wasn't what I was really ultimately here to do. I had another deeper purpose, and that led me with Jane into part-time and then full-time coaching and healing and developing these processes and writing all the books and doing these wonderful adventures together. Because I followed my purpose with Jane. Fortunately, I had Jane, but that's it. I mean, back in the 1990s, talking about the subtitle of one of our early books, The 4 Keys to Your Divine Purpose. Now, what was that? I mean, that was really going against the grain, against the status quo. And you have to do it with grounding and discernment, which is what we teach. A lot of people are just sort of immersed in the meta crisis going on with all the crazy things in society and the global crises. And so you need help, you need guidance to get out there and not hide your head in the sand or just do some foolish things. Right. And that's why you want some people who've been there who can help you and be with a wonderful group of supportive people. So just to give you a sense of this program we're teaching, we have so many incredible testimonials coming in all the time. In the description page, I can't really put any more in except one outdoes the other. Here's just one that we like from one of the ladies who took our training a couple years ago, Jen Peters. She's actually from New Zealand. She said, I spent 2 years searching for these courses. I knew I was looking for something, but wasn't sure what until I came across them. It's helped me enormously and in unexpected ways. It provides structure to an area that is traditionally quite ethereal and difficult to put into meaningful processes. I don't know of any other courses even remotely like these. With the scope they have, the program has literally ignited the light within. It's for anyone who is seeking a deeper understanding of who we really are and what we're here to do. These courses are the bridge into the bigger picture for those who have an awareness that there's more to life than meets the eye. Yes, and that's what it is all about, going deeper into your purpose and into what you're really here to do. And that's, as I said, it's going to take a little bit of a leap of faith here to do that. But if you follow your heart, good things happen. And we find that people who take the coaching and healing program, like the life purpose is the first part of it, They learn powerful spiritual holistic tools and knowledge, as I've mentioned. And the small group supportive community is really wonderful and very enjoyable. People have support partners and even sometimes lifelong relationships develop. And the approach has been proven. We've been offering and developing this program for over 20 years, so we know it works very well for the right people. And there's a lot of profound healings and growth, ahas, breakthroughs, transformations. There's actually spiritual stages of development, which we describe and you actually experience in the year program. So unlike a 6-week coaching program, which even if it is very good, and we don't know of any that have sort of quite the unique targeted approach that we take that's so effective. But if you take it over a long period of time, there's deep shifts because you want to gain mastery, don't you? You don't want to just dabble into this. You want to really go deep into your purpose and live more fully rather than just have a superficial understanding of this. And people who their heart is moved to this direction understand that. And some people use it as a career, either as a career starter or a career enhancer, or they find out what they want to do career-wise as part of their purpose. Jane, did you want to add to any of that?
I don't think so. There was actually just until this moment, there was some kind of buzzer going on. But everything seems to be better now. Yeah. I don't have anything to add.
So let's go into the 12 weeks, just briefly give you an overview week to week. There's a lot in this program. We start off with this coaching healing matrix. It's a nice way of organizing the many tools and skills you're going to learn. We have this little matrix thing as a kind of a guide and an index that you'll receive. And we start off with a life purpose coaching process. It's a wonderful way of connecting with people to find out an overview of where they are and how you can help someone if you're actually trying to help someone else or yourself. It kind of gives you an overview of what do you want, a clarification of that, what's in the way, and how to go forward. And part of that is what we call the 4 freedoms, a wonderful concept, very profound. Again, hard to find this out there if you scour the internet even, much less to have someone who knows how to master and teach it. The 4 freedoms: freedom of your vocation or your purpose or emotional freedom, autonomy, freedom of your abundance or resources or the abundance part of your freedom, the freedom of your time. What kind of time do you want? So in other words, what life do you want to create is what we're talking about. Most people just live by accident, by programming, by following what they've done, and just wonder why things don't change until they take that leap of faith into their purpose and get the help. And then also your location, your geography. Where do you want to live? What kind of time? What kind of places do you want to live and work in? So those are 4 freedoms that we teach too. Jane, anything more about week 1?
Oh, well, when you were talking about the 4 freedoms, I think that's a really wonderful thing too. We did start really examining our lives and thinking about what was meaningful to us, and including where we wanted to live. We lived in Sacramento in California at the time, and we really wanted to be closer to the ocean. And we started traveling to different places and actually ultimately ended up in a place where we've been for the last 22 years that is just perfect for us.
Yes.
And it is wonderful. It's partly about being intentional in how you want your life to be. And that's one of the exciting things really for us. We often talk about how happy we are to live where we live and to have the freedoms that we have here. So yeah, it's a wonderful area of exploration, and which I think highlights what this course is about. It's really about going into depth with what you want, and then of course who you are. What we will be sharing as we go along with this discussion, that there are a lot of things about ourselves that we just don't know, and we don't know what we don't know either, which is interesting. So it is a big exploration into that.
A quick story of a lady who was actually maybe like some people here watching this webinar live or in review. was considering our course, was looking at it. She was in a difficult relationship, marriage she didn't really like. She was looking for a career change. She used to be a lawyer, wasn't sure what she was going to do, burnt out of that profession, and was hoping, maybe there's something there. And when she really started to open her heart and look at it, she realized this was for her, and our approach was, and she joined our course and changed her career and changed her relationship to get a relationship she really liked with someone. And things shift when you're on purpose doing things that you love with people you like. It's not all a bed of roses, so to speak, but it's a wonderful place. You're very resourceful. You have the universe kind of behind your back, and you're connected, and you have a lot more love in your heart, and you're following that.
Right. Yeah.
So on to week 2 of the Life Purpose course, part of the Holistic Coaching and Healing certification program.
Right. And this is where we get into the process I suggested earlier, the soul centering process, which is really connecting with the soul's energy in your heart so that it starts clarifying what makes sense. I think when even now working with clients, one of the main things that seems to be off for people is that they're not centered. And because of that, they're not, which means to us, they're not connected with the truth of who they are from a soul perspective. And what that does is it creates anxiety and stress and confusion. And because we just don't know where to go, because we don't know where to look. But there are places within us to look. We also discuss briefly the 7 spiritual activations, which are 7 stages we all go through in our spiritual development that are directly related to the energy system and the chakra system. So a holistic approach, I think one of the things I enjoy most about a holistic approach is how everything is connected and everything within us has meaning, like the heart has meaning. I've been talking about the heart. Everything about us has meaning. So we go through the 7 spiritual activations, and then we also talk about, each week, more or less, Philip was talking about the first week we demonstrate and practice a coaching process. This week we demonstrate and practice a process called the spiritual path process. So it's about imagining yourself on your spiritual path, and the goal of it is to get most firmly onto the path, not to deviate off of it or end up on a detour or in a big pothole or whatever. There's so many things that can happen. And the spiritual path process is a really wonderful for just getting into that place of understanding what the journey to realizing your purpose can be, looking into a bright future and a wonderful life for yourself.
And that takes us,
Take us back.
I'm getting, something happened here. Don't know.
You went back. There we go, forward. There.
Okay,
we got
sorry
to week
about
3.
that. Okay, we got to week 3 finally here. And each week is sort of packed, but it's integrated and it overlaps with what you've learned in the previous week. So it builds on each other. There's sort of a method to our madness, having taught this program for so many years, and we love it and keeps developing. So in week 3, your soul's life plan, just this big picture, your purpose is actually part of your soul's plan. So that's a clue there. There's a direct connection. And there are what's called the stages of life, which we know chronologically from birth and childhood and adolescence. And then there's transitions in midlife and then what you do after you transition, if you go into your purpose more or not, just have sort of a conventional life and just sort of live life and hopefully happily or just whatever, becoming. So the idea is to become, as Zig Ziglar said, instead of a wandering generality, a meaningful specific. So the stages of life take you to your whole life, and we go into that, which is quite interesting, and there's healing around that. And one of the techniques that we do is called holistic EFT, energy healing, emotional freedom technique, tapping. And that's a way of clearing all kinds of things. And the EFT, the energy healing, and we do it a little bit of a more holistic way than the standard way that you may have been introduced to. besides being a wonderful, easy to use energy healing technique, it's how you come into it. In other words, what you learn from your life experience and in this training, say, that makes you a very good coach and healer. So it's what you know and how you get to the point of using the healing. It's kind of like saying that you go to a doctor and you say, I have a headache or I have a stomach ache. Well, you can't just do the same thing for every situation. You have to be more knowledgeable to know how to address a condition. And that's what we teach you, the specifics, a variety of them that get very deep and heal in a soulful way. Jane, did you want to add anything about that?
Nope, that sounds good to me.
And on to week 4. Oh boy, here we go.
So here we're getting into what we call aspects of your essential nature. And one of the big keys to life purpose, in addition to kind of understanding where your heart wants to go, is who are you? And as human beings, we're actually very complex. We have different potential goals and perspectives. And we go into this starting in this week in what we call the overleaves, are called, actually. We didn't name that ourselves. And we actually use the Michael teachings, which some of you may be familiar with, to go in more into understanding the nature of who we are. It starts with what we call your role. And each of us has an essential way of being, which I think is very telling. It's some people are more service oriented. Some people are more creative in their approach to life. Some people are more action oriented, and then others are more, you could say, more scholarly. So within that, there are, for instance, roles. One is a server, a person who is interested primarily in serving other people. Another one is artisan. I'm an artisan, so I'm very, everything for me has to do with being artistic in addition to to being spiritual. Others are the action types, like warriors, you could say. Some people are more warriorly. Some people, on the other side of that action type is a person who's more kingly, a person who's a natural leader. Like, not all of us are natural leaders. Some of us are more extroverted, some more introverted. And we really go into a lot of detail on what that means for us individually. It's very interesting, because when we first were exposed to this information, which was many decades ago, I don't think we knew if we were to understand which of the overleaves, you could say, these aspects of ourselves were most prominent. They weren't really obvious to us. And yet, in a way, your role actually is everything. It's like everything is related. It's your way of being, you could say, in the world. So when I say, for me, being an artist and that everything's about creativity, it really is. Not that that's the only thing that's happening, but it's the underlying theme. And Philip is more in the inspiration axis, which is really it's the servers, and the priest is the other title. Not that that means you have to be actually a priest per se, but he's more in that area in the way that he approaches life. So it's, for him, you might want to, how would you describe that?
Let me just add a couple cents. So the priest is inspirational, and likes to uplift and inspire people. The downside is getting carried away and too priestly, too over the top. But and you don't have to, as Jane said, be occupationally an artist to be an artisan like Jane, although you could be. So what we like about these Michael teaching overleaves, they're what's called a typology, and they are related very distinctly to your life purpose, because once you know these about yourself, you know a tremendous amount. It's like if you didn't know whether you are a male or a female, you could exist in life without knowing that. But what if someone said, oh, by the way, you're a female, and started to understand some bit what you'd learned so much so quickly about you and other people who are females, so this is that fundamental. And there are other typologies which you may have been introduced to. The Enneagram is well known. There's even Myers-Briggs and a bunch of other ones. And I think they all have some value. What we like about the Michael teachings is we find it the most objective. There's a lot of subtleties to it, which takes a while, as we'll introduce to you. So it's more precise, so you don't avoid categorizing or ending up in kind of a box in these things, which some of the typologies can put you into too limited an understanding of yourself. So it's very flexible, it's very broad, it's very profound and accurate, we find. So it's, once you know it, you'll say, wow, how did I get through life without it? I mean, we find it that valuable, and that's why we teach it.
Right. Well, and it is, I think, if we're looking at being coaches and healers, that it also is a way not just to understand ourselves, but to have a greater understanding of the people we're working with. Because if we say, well, like for me, if I think, well, everybody's like me and they're going to be interested in being more creative, an action type is not going to be interested in being more creative. They're going to be interested in a life that involves more action and probably learn more through action. So the way that we process, the way that we learn, the way that we exist in the world can be vastly different, but each one is equally valid. And the scholar, another one is the scholar. That is a person who focuses on information, on learning. And you can't expect them to be also like an action person. You can't expect them to go out in the, out in the woods and
right,
or in the wilderness for a week without any food or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not going to be interested in that.
Yeah. So what?
And actually, artisans aren't either. But people who are, that's the right thing. If that is something that actually makes them feel alive and energized.
Yeah, it gives
So
you
it's really
insights,
amazing. Yeah,
tremendous insights and advantages, and can quickly grasp things that otherwise you just wouldn't have the knowledge and understanding and framework for.
Right.
And that takes us to week 5. Week 5, symbolism and imagery, and we use the breakthrough process. Symbolism and imagery we found is a very big thing for healing and life in general. It gives you insights. The soul relates very much to images and symbols. A picture is worth 1,000 words at least. And a breakthrough process is a process we do of breaking through to a different understanding. It's a wonderful visualization, rather simple. A lady who was in our class went through a process like this, and with her brother, she had a problem. He would become very defensive whenever she would make a suggestion to him, and he would start yelling at her and so forth. And this woman was like in her 50s too, by the way. And so this has been going on for decades, in other words. And anyways, after doing the process with us, the healing process in the class, because you practice these quote processes, but they're more than just practice. Not only do you learn them, you have tremendous ahas, insights, light bulb moments, breakthroughs. So hers was to see an image of a dove in her heart. Isn't that beautiful? A dove in her heart.
Yeah.
And she had that. And so it shifted her awareness in her mind. And then even a few weeks after we did the process, I asked her, and she was with her brother, and he did have another outbreak toward her, but she just felt calm even amidst the madness. And she felt really at peace. She said, I'm at peace as I can. She felt a fundamental shift, and she had tried for many years, as people who take our program have tried many things for many years with very little success, often make these kind of major breakthroughs.
Right. Yeah.
Jane, did you want to add anything, or do we go on?
Well, I would just validate the breakthrough process is really wonderful, and it does help people in all kinds of different areas. I have memories of doing it myself, just very vivid memories of what it was like to break through. So it's very exciting. All of the processes, I think, doing the healing techniques and the things for really greater awareness techniques, which they go together, like the breakthrough process. You break through, so it's a healing and an activating process, and it also is something that helps you to become more self-aware. So this program really, the whole program, I think helps us to become more self-aware. This particular course really focuses in on that, on self-awareness of ourselves and others. So yeah, it's very validating and wonderful.
So on to week 6, halfway through this life purpose course, which again is one of the 3 courses that comprise the holistic spiritual life coaching and healing certification program. Jane, week 6.
Yeah, in this we go more deeply into the Michael teachings with some other characteristics called goals, modes, and attitudes. And by the way, with the course, there's a whole book that we've written with all of this information in it about just things to understand who we are and how we function in the world, and how to really bring out the best in ourselves and others. And the goals, modes, and attitudes, I think, are really wonderful. You could say your goal, everyone has a spiritual goal, so it's your primary motivator for wanting to excel or to move forward in life. So one goal, as an example, is growth. Another one actually is relaxation, which may sound odd, but for each of us, we mentioned briefly life plan. We come into our lives with a plan of what we want to accomplish. And so for some people, it may be a life that is a lot of growth. For some people, it might be one that is more relaxing, more just being in the flow with things. In fact, the other day, Philip and I were with some people. We were in Monterey, which is really wonderful. And the fellow we were with, he was a person who I think was in that kind of flow. His goal you could call it flow. And he was in, you could say, the positive pole of it, the positive aspect of it. And he was a tour guide in Monterey, and he actually gave us a mini tour because we were just there visiting, and which is really delightful. But he enjoyed everything he was doing and said he was happy, and he was just flowing through life very easily, which was wonderful, and beautiful to see. So there's the goal. Your mode, you could say, is the way you move toward life, the way you reach your goal. And there are different modes too. So some are more active, some are less so. The other one, attitude, is your mental perspective. So it is like, how do you view things in relation to this life? So some people, you could say, some are more spiritual, some are more skeptical or practical. And these things are really built into us. So I'm actually a pragmatist and I view things very practically. Other people, they're not really that way at all. Another one that is really wonderful is realist. Some people are realist, like they have a way of just making things real. And I love that energy of them. Cynics, skeptics, idealists. Yeah, Philip tends to be somewhat of an idealist, which is interesting. When you look at idealist and pragmatist, they're very different, but we complement each other. I think that's one thing about Philip and me. We're very different, but we complement each other, and we value the differences and find that together they tend to balance things out. Like a person who's a pragmatist might be very rigid, like I know the best way to do this. And then the idealist is just kind of out there like, oh wow, this looks good.
This is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, this is the ideal way. And they may not be at all the same. So it's a conversation starter. So we have that, and we do a process we call Mud to Mountaintop, which is, I'm going to do an example of that actually today. The Mud to Mountaintop process is a process of shifting from that place where so many people are in our reality, kind of wallowing around in the mud, anxious and fearful and angry, maybe mean, competitive, and just rising up above all of that to a place where there's freedom. And so we'll go there actually today.
Yes.
And in that we also connect with other beings like angels and guides, and just it's really wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great place to be.
Yeah.
I'd like to
and this actually, the Mud to Mountaintop, is very effective and easy. It's a really great one for a coach healer to use with clients. I use it a lot.
I just want to go back to some of the Michael teachings, the goal, mode, and attitude. We talked about role. That is a lot of material, and if you're thinking that seems like a lot, it is. But the good news is whatever you assimilate will be useful. If you assimilate 50% of it, that's invaluable. Even if you assimilate even less of it, because they're so valuable, the pieces that you pick up. And that's the way the whole program is. You pick up bits and pieces and come back to it and integrate it on different levels. So it has sort of a flexibility. And as we mentioned, we meet weekly, 3 weeks on and 1 week off, and you practice every week, once a week. So it's a very good learning pace to integrate this valuable, diverse information.
Yeah. And many people say that it's their favorite course because they get so much out of that. The courses, each of the 3 courses that we teach in the program are different. And this one, it has that focus of understanding what makes us tick in a deep way, very deep way.
And they complement each other.
Right.
So week 7, Jane?
Week 7, are you going to put it up there?
Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Week 7. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We're going to talk about polarities, which again goes into how everything in us is connected and has meaning. The polarities we talk about, one is the masculine and feminine, and we have 2 sides of ourselves, 2 sides of the brain, the left brain and the right brain, 2 sides of the body, the left and right, and it crosses over. Actually, the left brain and the right side of the body are related, and the right brain and the left side of the body are related. One side of the body is more masculine. That would be the right side of the body. The left side of the body is more feminine. And the masculine and feminine are very, very important because they're different aspects of the self, where the feminine part of us is the part of us that has the creativity and the vision. And whether we're males or females, this doesn't matter. We all have this, that creative part, and the more intuitive part. And that's the part that actually develops the vision of where we're going. And then the masculine part is the practical, grounded part that actually can take us where we want to go. And it's the part that has the will to follow through and take action. So if you have the creative part that can develop the dream, but you don't have the active part that can actually take action to bring it to fruition, something big is missing. And the opposite is true. If you have the action, but you don't have a clear vision of where you're going, you can do a lot of what people call spinning their wheels because they're not actually going in a direction that is in harmony with who they are. So those are very important. There's also the spiritual and the earthly, so the upper part and the lower part, the past and the future. The future is before us and the past is behind us. Some people are more like back in the past, so they can't be in the present. Some people are out in the future to the degree they can't be in the present. And what we want to do is be in a balance between both so that we can just be present in our bodies in this moment. So that is the polarities are really a very important thing. In fact, this is another one I would say with centering, along with centering the polarities, that's probably one of the 2 top things where we find people are out of balance. When we do sessions with people, polarities come up as being out of balance quite a bit. And it's really transformational when you work with them. You can imagine, what if your masculine and feminine sides aren't in balance, aren't both active and also working in harmony with each other? Very often they're not for people. So that's the polarities, Philip.
Okay, the polarities. And that takes us to the next week, which is week 8 of 12 here. And we talk about something called center of gravity. These are information. This is information which complements some of modern psychology and neuroscience, but it is not out in the general population, the general mass consensus of knowledge. There's a lot of very profound things, as you know, which people in the status quo, even the wonderful scientific discoveries, are not aware of. And part of this is being what's called George Gurdjieff, the sage in the 1900s, called four-brain beings. People were four-brain beings. So we know this, and this is a different way of describing that. We have an emotional center, an emotional body, as well as a physical body. And we have a mental thinking body too, and an instinctive body. We also have a higher mind, like higher body too, which is the soul is part of that too. And when you start to understand how you have these different parts, which are esoterically represented in a card deck, a deck of cards, we talk about a way of understanding them. These different parts of yourself, your instinctive parts, your moving parts, you have a moving center, your ability to move, your ability to have emotions, your ability to think. And these parts have different aspects to them. Some of them don't take any attention, like you don't really have to take any attention to, say, just generally digest food or breathe or just walk. But if you're walking in a difficult circumstance in a challenging terrain, then you need more attention to the way you walk. Your movements need attention. They can't be automatic. And the same thing with emotions. You often just, if you're just sort of emoting and not thinking or gossiping or just doing what crowds emote, you're not really emotionally intelligent. You're just imitative. You're no attention. Or you could be very extreme and volatile, which is another kind of either thinking or moving or feeling. And then with thinking, you can have automatic thinking, just what other people said, memorization. Or you can have more critical thinking where you are using scale and relativity. So there are different ways of understanding your being. And we go this again, once you know this, you figured out a lot of your life that was just very hit and miss or totally blind to. So it's very valuable, practical information. We also show you how to do role playing, which is a great and fun thing to do for healing and coaching people. It's a great skill to have too. Jane, anything you wanted to add with that?
I think about center of gravity, one of the things that's most important is it helps us to understand how to live our lives more intentionally.
Right.
To do things with intention rather than just, we can live on automatic. We all know you can drive, you can get in your car and drive somewhere and you can't remember anything that happened in between. And that's because we're on autopilot. And actually driving on autopilot isn't a bad thing, but maybe at the same time, having the mind on autopilot is not the best thing. So it is, again, another really valuable area to explore, as each one of these are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, if you're going to be living your life purpose, you will be intentional because you have an intention, you have a plan, right? You're following rather than just doing whatever you're doing in the morning and getting up and routines and what you have to do in your to-do list and obligations. Not that you wouldn't want to be responsible to things and have healthy routines, but if you're on purpose, things have a deeper meaning, and then you can contribute and really help the world. And by the way, you may have noticed the world really needs help, and you could play a good part. And I'm sure all of you are, but you could even do that much more so.
Right. Well, and you can see within this also, if you think about living more intentionally, how a lot of people aren't really thinking. You might notice. They're just following someone else's thinking, and their mind is really on automatic. Like if you ask them, well, why do you feel this way? Well, so and so says ... And it could be a political leader, a religious leader, someone who they feel is a valuable resource for them, but they're not putting any real thought into it themselves. So it is living intentionally is very important. And for us as coaches, healers too, this is another area that benefits us personally and also in our work with other people, because there are some really wonderful things you can learn, like either or thinking. That's usually not, there's not much intentionality in it. So it's like, well, if I do this, then I'm either going to die or, kill somebody or whatever. Like it's either this or that. Often the most valuable and resourceful solution to a problem is the things that come after those. Okay, so what else might it be? What else might be possible? And that's when you get into creative thinking. It's not like just automatic responses to things.
Right. And we go much more into that each week, and we teach this, and you learn to think more intentionally and use your that part of your brain more.
Yeah. And it's great for clients, because a lot of times clients are in that kind of automatic thinking too. Like, I can't move forward because either I move forward and it doesn't work out, or I stay where I am and I'm unhappy. Well, there must be something else. Life is here for you.
Right.
The intention really of the universe is to support you. It's not against you. So what we want to do is, how can we cooperate more with life?
Which takes us to week 9 and the obstacles and opportunities. We framed it. This is a very useful way of understanding what we're talking about, your purpose in the big picture. Jane?
Right. And of course, this goes more into things that people are unaware of, like characteristics, things that are operating on automatic, where we can actually start to examine them. And none of this, also, just to create a foundation for this, none of this means that there's something wrong with us. What it means is that we're not fully accessing all of our resources in these areas where maybe, like, if we're not really thinking, if we're just going with either or thinking all the time, we may be missing a lot of opportunities because we're not enlisting really our creative brain. So the obstacles and opportunities go into more common characteristics that prevent people from living fully. And along with this, we go into the process that we teach and demonstrate, and everyone can practice it. We call spiritual plane communication, which is a process where you can go to the spiritual plane to communicate with someone who maybe you couldn't on the physical plane, maybe because they won't listen to you, or maybe they're dead. We can communicate with people beyond the physical plane. You can also communicate with higher beings like angels and guides and masters, and on that level. So it is it's a way to, again, enrich our opportunities for communication by going to the spiritual plane. An example of the obstacles and opportunities is something we call buffers, like or justifications, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this in yourself, but all of us do this, where if someone asks you something and you don't want to really tell them the truth, or it isn't actually even thinking that happens, but it's like, well, why did you walk in the mud like that this morning? Well, and then all of a sudden this excuse comes out of your mouth. I don't know if you've noticed that. All of us do this, an excuse for, well, why did you trip over that wire? And some excuse comes out. You're trying to justify why that made sense, something that maybe doesn't make any sense, rather than saying, well, gee, it was kind of a foolish thing that I did, because we don't want to say that. So that's just one example. And if we start watching it, what that means is that we have an opportunity to be more aware of what we're doing. Actually, a good example for coaching, for instance, is working with a client, and often in the session, at the end of the session, we'll suggest something that they do between now and the next session. And usually it's something that would challenge them. And at the beginning of the next session, we might say, well, did you do this thing that we talked about that you agreed you were going to do in between? And it might be like someone say they're shy as an example, and you have them agree, well, every day when I'm out in public, if they, assuming they're out working or whatever, I'm going to say hello to someone I don't know and maybe start a conversation with someone. And so you ask them, well, did you do this? And they say, well, no, I didn't have time. And that's a really great excuse. Oh, I didn't have time to do that, rather than saying, well, I didn't dare do it. That's just one example. There are just so many different ways that could happen, that we justify ourselves, and actually we're lying to ourselves. It's not that they didn't have time, or ourselves, if something we're doing that is a challenge to us. Well, I didn't have time. It's easy to tell ourselves that.
Right.
So that's week number 9.
Which takes us to week 10 out of 12. Part of what we want to do is to help you go from a good coach and healer to a very good or excellent or more masterful one. And this big picture approach includes common problems and solutions, things that show up that you would want to be aware of these patterns. And one of them is chief defenses, too, these fear patterns, which we talk about in the Michael teachings, these patterns that we all have, and one or two stand out, such as self-pity or arrogance or self-destruction or impatience. There's other of them. So they're really useful to know that, and you understand a lot very quickly when you're aware of those common problems and how to solve them, and things like those fear patterns, those chief defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, did you want to add anything there?
This is really a big one, and it's a little bit difficult, because your chief defense is the thing that you use to defend yourself when you feel cornered as a person, and it's usually a habit that we develop as children. So for me, I lived in a family. My father was an alcoholic. Which all of our students already know. I talk about it quite a bit. And he and my brother, I had an older brother. They were both large people and very loud and nasty. And so I became very quiet, and my only approach that I could do would be to be stubborn. So I would, I would pull back and resist. All I could do is resist. So stubbornness was something that I needed to work with, to not allow that to be my kind of my way of approaching problems as a stubborn person, rather than allowing myself to actually think things through more.
Right.
Or people who go into self-pity, like maybe you're not valued as a child. A person who's not valued as a child may learn self-pity because they don't have any way to get out of it as a child. But we don't have to continue to do that as adults.
Right. So you mature what you only could do as the only resource you had as a child, this defense. You can mature with the right training and support and knowledge into a mature spiritual adult.
Right.
So week 11 of 12, Jane?
Yeah, now we go in a little more into the obstacles and opportunities, and a process, which is one of our favorites. I think it's one of my go-to processes that I use most for healing, which is the reality shift. And that it's, again, using EFT, or we have another healing technique that we teach in our programs that we can use interchangeably. That is really wonderful and spiritual. And the reality shift actually uses imagery, because images are like holograms, like they're representation of different world views. And people speak in images a lot of times, like, well, gee, it's been so difficult recently. I feel like I'm in prison all the time. I feel like I have bars in front of me and I can't get anywhere, or I feel like I'm dragging a ball and chain behind me. Mm-hmm. There are just so many images that we use. I feel like I'm walking on coals all the time trying to talk to my family. So those things are very meaningful. And we use that as part of healing. And it's really, again, another really wonderful healing technique. So we're learning in our program, a lot of programs in healing teach techniques. and not necessarily along with them how to live. So we're teaching how to live and how you can actually coach people and do healing in all of our courses. So the reality shift is a wonderful one.
It's sort of a spiritual school as well as a training and healing, and it's a wonderful community too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the last class in this course on life purpose, we talk about how to conduct ceremonies and rituals. Actually, teaching classes is kind of a ritual in itself, but many times people want to include that in different ways in their life, just personally or professionally, of having ceremonies and so forth, and how to do that. It's actually relatively easy, and it's nice to know. And then teaching classes and workshops and webinars and such, you might wonder, well, how does that fit into life purpose? Well, we're all teachers, we're all learners, and there are specific trainings and skills you can have. Having been a school teacher for many years, I picked this up. Many people are good at coaching and healing, but they don't know how to teach, and you want to be able to teach, especially if you're having classes and things.
Right. And what we do along with all the other things is we're also teaching professional development. So this is in each of the courses, there's at least one class that focuses on something that also is professional development as a coach and healer, or wherever
Yes.
a person's going. Yeah.
Right. And that, let's see, that's the courses. There's some bonuses even on top of this. There's a dream interpretation and a holistic action plan and some language pattern information. So that takes us to a demonstration. Are we doing holistic EFT?
No, we're going to do the mud to mountaintop process.
We're going to do mud to mountaintop. So just, I'll put mud to mountaintop. I'll even type it in.
Wow. What do you know?
And that will be a really good one for us all to experience right now.
Yeah, and we have several people here I see who are currently our students. I know that Bianca and Margaret are both students of ours, and others here we know. So along with this, I'll just ask people what they experience in the process too. That's an opportunity to kind of share along with it. And as I suggested, this is another one. I use this a lot with clients because it is a way to actually move to a higher plane, which is our ultimate goal. When we talked about the seven spiritual activations, is actually to be functioning from a higher plane and not in the mud with where most people are. So I'm just going to do this visualization. If you're in a place where you can close your eyes and relax, that's a good thing. So start by just making yourself comfortable. I always suggest also, if you have your spine straight, the energy flows best through your body that way. But just relax. And we can just start to focus on our breath, Dog in my lap here. And as you breathe in, just imagine breathing in love and light from the universe, which is all around you. It's always there. And as you exhale, just releasing any tension, any energy that doesn't feel good. And that can include all of the energy of people who are functioning in the mud. And we find ourselves there sometimes too. Maybe in fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, feeling like you have to compete to get anywhere in life. Just being in that place, which is really a low vibration. And it is really, in terms of being creators, we want to be in a higher vibrational place. So as you breathe, just breathing in that love and light all through your body. There may be places where you feel there's tension. You can just breathe that light into those areas. Just releasing with the exhale again. You can breathe it into your mind, into your brain. Just asking any thoughts that you don't need now to just leave for now. They can come back. They want to know that they can express themselves. For now, we just want to be here in the moment in our bodies. It's also wonderful to ask any energy that is not your own, that's in your energetic space, to send it back where it came from. Because we pick up energy from other people and places. And we can just send it back. And when we do that, that creates more space for us to be ourselves. We similarly leave bits of ourselves in other times and places. So we can just ask to have all of our own energy brought back to us here in this moment. Continuing to breathe. And just notice you might feel more solid, just able to be yourself in the moment. And now from this place, wherever we are, we can start breathing in more light. Again, inviting it into all the cells of the body and allowing it to radiate out all around us, filling that space, which is our energy field, that ball of light around us, filling it with more light. So we become light enough that we start feeling like we could float upward, really beautifully and gently, safely. Drifting upward, and we're going to go together to a lofty mountaintop. And just rising up, it tends to lift our spirits. So we're just rising up through the atmosphere to this beautiful, beautiful mountaintop. And it's way up high. It's high enough that there's this magnificent panoramic view of the whole world around us. And you can feel that lofty air, a beautiful, beautiful breeze, a perfect, perfect breeze flowing around us. And here we can open our hearts, just feeling that love that exists in the heart, allowing that to intensify as we breathe into it and radiate around us, through the body and all around us. And also expanding that ball of light around you, because you're in a space right now where you're free. You don't have to hold yourself in to fit in. This is your time just to be yourself and to open to those things that are most exciting and energizing for you, the life that you truly want to create. And inviting all of those beings of light who are available to support you in it, inviting them to help you, the angels, the guides, the masters, Source itself, which is like a beautiful, brilliant sun above us. Here on the mountaintop, you can feel that sun radiating down over you, an even higher frequency of energy. Just feeling that sun and looking out over the miles at the magnificent beauty of the world around us. And noticing how you feel about yourself and your possibilities here compared with maybe your normal waking state, or those times when you find yourself in the mud, which we all do. It's not to say that that doesn't happen to us. It's not that it's a bad thing that it happens to us. It's an opportunity for us to shift and go up into this other space where there's love, there's generosity, there's kindness. We're here with others who support us. We have the love from all these beings of light around us. You know, sometimes it feels like you come up and you arrive at the mountaintop and you've conquered. We can just feel like we've conquered up here. Like here we can just be ourselves. And notice how that feels to you. And just as a kind of a group process, we can, if you want, you can open your eyes here on the mountaintop or keep them closed. I'm just curious if anyone would want to share what that feels like to you being on the mountaintop compared with maybe other places you've been.
You can just unmute yourself and speak up if you want to share.
There's anyone. Bianca, would you like to share?
I feel really light and calm and at peace and just a lighter sense of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, I brought in my healing guides and I was just on the mountain, just hanging out and enjoying the beautiful day and feeling the wind in my hair and smelling the beautiful flowers, and it just gave me a sense of calm and peacefulness.
Wonderful. And how does that make you feel about creating the life that you truly desire?
Makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
feel,
oh, go ahead.
oh, no, I feel like getting onto the right path, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a place we can come to anytime. For we're connected more, I think, with that truth in our hearts here. Margaret, would you like to share? She's Margaret and Bianca are both students of ours, and they've done this process before too. Thank you, Bianca, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I actually went to the mountaintop this time, and the last few times I've gone beyond. So it was as some of people in the class already know, I'm very visual. So I really had my senses involved in this, and I felt my body getting quite a bit lighter as we were rising up. And then when we were on top of the mountain, I was really on top of the mountain. There was, a top of a rocky mountain, and then just vistas everywhere, like I was on the highest peak around. And the air was very brisk, blowing very briskly. Clouds were just flying by, but yet it was peaceful, even though it was very active. It felt really peaceful. And it's weird too, because even though I could hear the wind, I also had a sense of stillness and silence. It was like silence with sound, because it was something inside of me was silent, even though everything around me was noisy. It's a very different place. I've never been there before. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. And from that place, how does that feel for you to live the life that you want to create?
Basically, it's very interesting, because when you asked, I hadn't thought about it until you asked, and I had this sense that it's already done, that it's just there, it's already there.
And actually, that's true. When you go to this place, it is there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just we're not there a lot of times.
We're not there. We're not there most of the time. No, but yeah, I just had to. I didn't even think of it until you asked, and the first thing that just came into my head was, I'm already there. It's done.
It's beautiful. Well,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you
Right.
so much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel that we do this often. Every time I do it, I thought I was feeling good too, and I feel better going through this. And another thing about, even though we're not together in the same room, when we're together on a Zoom like this and we have a common purpose and intention, we do support each other energetically, and I can feel the energy of everyone around me too here, which is really wonderful. So thank you.
Right. It's great being with everyone today, and that builds in, of course, when we're with people regularly.
Right. Yeah.
And just in closing here, just with the course, the life purpose and the coaching healing, spiritual coaching healing certification program, we have marketing. If you are interested in building a business, over the years, we've recorded these information, very relevant information about how to be successful in a practice, which you can relate to all kinds of business. We keep developing it, adding to it, updating it. Their handouts, including website in a week. So that's another piece if you want to use it. And we help people individually in the marketing too of their business if that's what they're interested in. So we are actually going to begin this course relatively soon, October 11th from this point in time. And it's a small course. There's still a few spaces open. Who takes it? People who want really deep spiritual growth and healing, hands-on, in a small supportive environment where you can't really find this anywhere else. And so it's a very wonderful experience. You may want to enhance a career, start a career, or something else you're doing in business or in life. This could be a good complement too. And people from all walks of life over the years have taken the program: business people, educators, artists, speakers, you name it, teachers.
Right.
So it's just this interest in spiritual growth and healing. And some people have a lot of experience and some don't. And oddly enough, it works together. It's a very complementary program where you
It's
go
very
at your own
supportive,
pace.
I think people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think students support each other. Because we start also 3 times a year, we'll have new people coming in, and then there will be people like Bianca and Margaret who have some experience, and the people who are more experienced help the people who are just starting out, and it's very supportive in that way too.
It is. It's very flexible and dynamic, and to have people. So not everyone is starting off at this first time and wondering how this is kind of all working. You have a lot of people who already are sort of like mentors or know the ropes, have been in 1 or 2 of the previous courses, adding on to a new course. And I don't know if Bianca or Margaret, since you've taken some of the courses already and are enrolled in this new one coming up, the life purpose, if you want to share what it's been like a little bit so for you so far, that'd be great.
I'll take a stab. Yeah, okay. Well, I came to this course mostly thinking of what I needed for myself and my own healing, with the hope that I would eventually be able to help others. And one of the really valuable tools I found in this course are the Thursday night sessions, the practice sessions.
Hmm.
You know, where you do the demonstration, they do the demonstration of whatever the class was discussed about, and then you pair off and actually get to practice it with one of the other people in class. And I have found that very valuable on many levels. I have found healing happen. I have also helped other people heal, which is something I was wanting to do, and now I've actually done it, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think,
Yeah, I
the-
can do
the-
this.
yeah, you know, in my second week in this class, I'm having a session with someone and they're like, oh my God, I never thought of that. Thank you so much. You know, and still, you know, and the relationship that you form with the people in the class also,
Yeah.
it's very beneficial, you know. Just like anything else, you hit it off with some people, and you know, some other people you might not have even had a session with yet, that type of thing, because you know, it just kind of happens randomly. But it's just been, and of course, the things that we're actually learning are very interesting in the sense of how they work. It's just a really amazing. If you are very, very open to the possibilities, then a lot can transform in a short period of time. And I'm only in I just finished my first of the 3, so I have 2 more yet to go, and I am greatly looking forward to them. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Margaret.
Yeah, thank you.
you want to say something, Bianca? She's also
Yeah.
taking our course,
So
previous course.
exactly, along with Margaret, I've also taken the first course, and the things that I have said during the course is that they're really simple, but they're just so profound. The techniques that Philip and Jane share, and there are a lot of aha moments. There's a lot of baby meltdown, a lot of introspective of yourself, and like Margaret was saying, it's like it feels good because during our Thursday labs, you do get that confidence that you are healing somebody and somebody's healing you, and just the benefits from that, the wisdom and everything else that goes along with that, and that you're supported by Philip and Jane and the rest of the class, and the fact that everybody's very like-minded and wants to help and wants to give you the support that you need, and to give you the strength and the courage and to open up and be vulnerable, and which is a little, hard for a lot of people because a lot of people have their own different baggage. Sharing that with everybody. So it's very enlightening as well. And if you really want to be, you just really have to be open-minded about what's going to happen and not have any expectations, and things are just going to happen.
Right.
Whenever statements are miracles are always happening. So
Yeah, it's synchronous. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Bianca, and it's great.
you're
seeing
quite
you
welcome,
again.
Philip and Jane.
You bet. Great to see you again. So just so it's
And
clear.
I wanted to say one thing
Oh, go
too
ahead,
about
Jen.
it. When I think another aspect of this, which is foundational to it, is we're helping each other to understand how magnificent we are. That's the the foundation of the course is we're magnificent spiritual beings, and we're awakening to the truth of who we are. So the course is very supportive with that. Like when I said, well, we all find ourselves down in the mud, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with us. We're human. It means that there's something to be gained from the experience. But we can rise back up to the mountaintop where we can perceive our magnificence and connect with
Mhm,
beings of light who can support us more.
mhm.
So I think it's a wonderful place in that way, I think, to be able to support each other in that, which it doesn't happen a lot for most of us. The people around us may not be supporting that at all.
Right. And just to be clear, there are 3 courses and people begin at different times, which is fine. They're interrelated. So they're not chronological. They're all synergistic, and the basics are covered where they're needed in each course and reinforced. So there's sort of a method to the madness, and it works very well. We found over the years, just so you understand that procedure. So
Right.
it's a wonderful program for people whose heart is drawn to it, for people who have that, wow, this seems like it. And again, it's following your heart, and it'll be a leap of faith. There'll be second thoughts and doubts and what ifs, and I don't know if I can. And we do have tuition payment plans and ways of working with you on the financial level and working that out. If you have a sincere interest, we'd love to have you join us, because for the right program, it is a unique, life-changing opportunity that we don't believe we'll find anywhere else if you're called to it.
Right.
Jane, did you want to add anything?
Just for me, and it's interesting, I mentioned when we were starting, just reviewing this morning, I reviewed the PowerPoint slides that Philip was going to show and all of the things that are in the course. And I became so excited about teaching it again. It's just, there's always a lot for us too. I think we're learning along with
Right.
everybody else and growing, and we add new things. Where right now in recent times, we've been really working more with the angelic realm. So we're adding awareness of angels and connecting with angels and using angels with healing. And there's always more as we move along. It's evolved quite a bit over the last, well,
Mhm.
20 some years, I guess, almost 30, almost close to 30 years that we've been teaching the program. It's evolved a whole lot, and it continues to. We allow that. So it's exciting. It's always kind of what's in the forefront for us too. So it's always exciting. And we
Mhm.
look forward to the connections that we create.
Right. So.
And this
and
is Buddy, who also
and that is
enjoys.
Buddy.
You'll see
He-
Buddy a lot
he
if you're
attends the
in the
class
class.
too at
Yes,
times,
he's
yeah.
often there.
He's
Hi,
a
Bud.
faithful student,
Yes.
of spiritual growth and healing. And so the next step for people, some people are already enrolled, and some people who are watching this have enrolled, and people returning. But if you're considering this or want to do it, next step, call us directly at Awakenings Institute, 805-934-1238. We're in California. Or if you go to the description page of the program, here's the tinyurl.com/HOL coach. You may already be on that page. There's a planning session, a schedule, or an appointment. So schedule a time that's convenient. So we'll be there. We'll answer any questions and figure out if this is the right fit, and help you make it work for you, because it will be a wonderful experience if you decide to join us, if you're called in that direction. Jane, did you want to add anything before we close?
Just whatever your next step is, to remember the mountaintop and how being in an expansive place is where you want to be, connected with your heart and soul. That to me is the most important thing of all.
From the mountaintop, from the soul, your love expands, your purpose is embraced, you share more, you create more, your life is on track, you're more resilient, you deal with the challenges, and you help yourself and others and the planet much more.
Yeah, we are all so loved, so deeply loved.
Yes.